How does a high school teacher, first year teacher, end up with over 3,000 items from the Minnesota Twins? My first year as a teacher, you go in halfway through the month of August and you have something called Teacher Workshop. And one of the main things at Teacher Workshop is you open up mail that has accumulated over the summer. Mostly it's catalogs where they've told you they don't have any money to buy things from, so throw them away. But in amongst my first year mailings was a letter from Calvin Griffith, the Minnesota Twins, and it was just simply addressed to the baseball coach. They didn't know who it was going to be at Little Pine Island High School. So I'm opening up the mail, and there amongst all the catalogs I'm going to throw away is a letter from the Minnesota Twins. I open it up, and it's a season ticket pass for 4 people in the cheap seats for the 1966 season. Now, as mentioned, Cal didn't know that school got out at the end of May, and he didn't mail them out till June, so for everyone virtually, they sat there all summer. Well, I was brought up to say thank you. So boy, when that week of preparation for my first teaching job was over, I got 3 buddies and out to Met Stadium we went for a baseball game. I looked up Cal Griffith. I wanted to say thank you. I went into his office, I held up that pass and I said, Mr. Griffith, I want to thank you. And he looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, I've been handing those passes out for 3 months and you're the first guy that thanked me. What's wrong with you? And I said, well, my mother brought me up to say thanks. She never told me it was this tough. And I literally wanted to get out of there. And he said, no, come here. Down the hall, to the left, to the right. And we were out in the Griffith seats behind first base, the first base dugout. And he said, when you come to a game, you don't have to sit out there in the cheap seats with those thankless people. You can sit in here at my family. Well, that's what I got to do. I got to sit with his family for the rest of 66, all the way through to 1981. Now, the rest of the story is centered around what happened then. He's moving out of the Met to the Metrodome. He had stored a lot of items that he brought with him from Washington when the Senators became the Twins, starting in 1961, and he accumulated a lot from 61 to 81. Well, now he's moving out. He stored all of those items free at the Met. He's going to the Metrodome, and they say, sure, bring all those items, but we're going to charge you by the square foot. We have a sports commission. And he told his brothers, throw everything. So Billy, one of his brothers, got a hold of me and said, Clyde, we're throwing everything. You like baseball, you should come out here. So I went out there for 34 straight nights and got over 3,000 items. It was amazing. I would go there, some nights there'd be 5 boxes, some nights there'd be 40 boxes. What we didn't want, we had to take outside and throw in a dumpster. I'll give you an example. One time there was a cardboard filing cabinet, 2 drawers high from the 40s or early 50s, bent, out of shape. I straightened it up. I pulled out the drawer, and inside were 19 letters from presidents of the United States. They had a rich tradition in Washington when the Twins had been the Senators, and the president would throw out the first pitch of the season. For example, I took a file out, and there's Eisenhower. First letter from Mike said, first year's president, White House stationery. I get to throw out the first pitch. I'm warming up. I'm not going to embarrass you. Right behind that would be a letter from Rawlings Sporting Goods saying, saw where Ike's throwing out the first pitch. We're sending a glove along. It's got his name on it. Get it in the picture. See, about a third to a half of the times, the president's wearing a glove. And if the glove was turned just right, you could read free advertisement, because that picture was going to be in every newspaper, daily, weekly, monthly. Yesterday, last week, earlier this month, President Eisenhower threw out the first pitch. And you'd be able to read Rawlings or Wilson, depending which one got the glove in the picture. Right behind that was another letter from Rawlings saying, we heard Ike isn't going to throw out the first pitch. He's going golfing instead, so we're sending a glove along with Vice President Nixon's name on. It's got his name on it. Get it in the picture, save Ike's glove for later in the year. Right behind that was a letter from Nixon saying, I get to throw out the first pitch. I'm so excited I won't embarrass you. And then right after that's a telegram from former President Truman, and he already doesn't like Nixon. His wonderful statement says on his telegram, saw where Nixon is throwing out the first pitch. Don't let him throw you a curve. Now think of that. For American history, and I was an American history teacher, think of that. Behind that were 17 letters from wives of presidents, all the way back to Helen Taft. Her husband was the first one to throw out a pitch way back in 1910. But Eleanor Roosevelt, Bess Truman, Mamie Eisenhower, all the people when I grew up I knew as first ladies. One day I took a group of things back into Cal Griffith and I said, Cal, you're throwing things that are so valuable. He said, I got plenty of money. I said, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about the history of the Twins and a history of baseball. And he said, Clyde, what's wrong with this picture? They're all a gift to you. I'm giving them to you. Just don't bring them back in here. And he eventually mentioned to both newspapers, yep. He said, I gave these to Clyde Depner. They're all his. It's a gift. But otherwise, we just got to get rid of that stuff. So that's how a guy in a teacher's salary ended up with thousands of valuable items to the history of the franchise going back to the Washington Senator days.